Everyone, it's Alicia here for your chair yoga class today. So you'll want to set up with a sturdy chair, preferably without arms, but you could use one with arms if that works well for you. You could figure out some ways to do that. You might want to put on some soft music, and I'll put a few suggestions in the comments box under this video of some of the music that you might listen to while practicing your yoga. You'll want to have your chair be on something that's not going to slide around, so maybe a yoga mat underneath your chair. And we will do some standing poses today. We'll do some seated poses. We'll move a lot of the body around and then have a relaxation at the end. So to begin with, sitting towards the front of the chair. And you'll want to have your knees be in line with your hips. And so if the knees are too low, you could put something underneath your feet. If the knees are too high, you could put something underneath your seat. So you might need a pillow to sit on or a folded blanket or maybe a block or two underneath your feet. So that might be a few ways of setting yourself up. From here, we're going to jump right into it. We're going to sit tall into the spine, and you can close your eyes if you like or keep your eyes open. Taking a few slow breaths into your belly. And you can let your body move and wiggle and fidget anytime it needs to. But we're looking to move towards a stillness, almost like a meditation to begin the class. Centering ourselves in our breath, centering ourselves in our body, and leaving the outside world behind. If you notice after a few breaths that you've started to slump a bit, take a moment to re-lengthen and sit a little taller. And we'll have another moment or two here. If you'd like to set an intention for yourself, you might think of a word or a phrase, something positive that you could infuse your practice with, or something positive that you could invite into your life. We're going to tip the torso forward and bring the forearms to the thighs. I'm pausing here, lengthening your spine still. Adjust the feet if they feel like they want to come forward. They can come a little bit forward so that you're feeling steady on your feet. You can stay here. You could bring the arms to the insides of the legs and lean a little further forward. Or the arms could also go to the outsides of the legs as you lean forward. Feet could widen too if that gave you a little bit more room to fold forward. Head and neck can relax. You can make a yes and a no. And you can open and close your mouth. Make a funny face, move the jaw around, and have another breath. We'll bring forearms back up to thighs if they're not there already, and we'll pause. And then hands press into thighs, and we slowly sit upright, adjusting the feet anytime. Arms come out to the sides and up. We'll breathe in here. And then exhale, arms come down. And we'll continue that a few times, inhaling to reach the arms out and up. And exhaling to let the arms come back down. And if your breath isn't quite matching up with that, feel free to take 2 breaths on the way up and 2 breaths on the way down. A few more repetitions of this. Arms come up, and this time they stay up. And we'll hook the thumbs together, reach the arms, and if the elbows need to stay a little bent, they can stay a little bent. Arms could also come forward. They could be out in front of you, in whatever way works best for you. And then we're going to lean over to the right. Getting a side stretch on the left side, taking a couple of breaths as though we could breathe just into the left side. And coming back to center and leaning over to the left. Now letting the right side get a stretch. Only leaning as far as works well for your body. And if anything doesn't work for you, remember you can sit that part out and join back in when something comes around that works better. One more breath. And then coming back to center, releasing the arms, hands come to rest, palm down on your legs. And we'll close the eyes for a moment, allowing the blood to rush back into the shoulders and arms. A couple of choices here. First choice is to extend your legs and cross your right ankle over your left ankle. Second choice is legs are not extended and you're going to cross the right thigh over the left thigh. And then we have a third choice as well, which is that the right ankle comes onto the left thigh. So whichever of those choices works best for you, make a long spine, sit up nice and tall. You can hold on to the sides of the chair seat. You might be here with a figure 4 in the legs, and we're going to hold on to some part of the chair. Hold on the sides of the seat, or maybe a little further back onto the apparatus of the chair, depending on what your chair is like. From here, we'll lean the torso a little bit forward, staying long through the spine and having a couple of deep breaths. So again, you could be crossed at the ankles, legs extended. Could be knees bent, right thigh crossed over left thigh, or right ankle on left thigh or knee. Another couple breaths here. We'll slowly bring the torso back up. Keep whatever cross you have in your legs. We're going to twist to the left. The right hand comes across to whatever it might grab onto. Left arm can drape across the back of the chair. Left arm could slip, depending on what kind of chair it is, slip to the inside and hold on to the chair seat. Left hand could be on the left hip. Whatever works well for you. We're going to lengthen the spine. Take a couple of deep breaths and allow the body to twist to the left. And coming back to center. Uncrossing your legs from whatever cross they're in. And we're going to bounce the feet a few times. So bounce the legs a few times, wake them back up. And then finding a cross that works on the left side. Again, it could be extended legs, ankle crossed over ankle, knees bent, thigh crossed over thigh, or left ankle onto the right thigh, whichever one works best for this side. It might not be the same as the first side, but it might be. And then holding onto some part of the chair, leaning your torso forward, finding length in your spine, and a few deep breaths. Coming back up slowly. Keep the whatever cross you have in your legs, and we'll twist to the right. Left arm comes across to whatever you might grab onto. Right arm can drape across the back of the chair or hold on to some part of the chair seat. or find some other place that works well to help steady you in the pose. Again, we'll lengthen the spine, deepen the breath, and have a few moments here. We'll return to center. Uncross the legs, feet to the floor. Give another bounce to the legs, bounce to the feet. And then feet separate a bit, sliding forward, forearms to the thighs. Pausing here for a breath. And either staying here or letting the arms come down into the insides of the legs or to the outsides of the legs. Whatever works best for you to have this forward bend. Few breaths here. Again, you can move your head and neck, make some funny faces, move the jaw around like you're chewing a big piece of bubble gum. Forearms come back up to the thighs if they're not already there, and we pause. Hands come to the thighs and we press up to sit comfortably. Hands rest on the legs, eyes could close a moment, just taking a moment of observation. We're going to shift a little to the right in our chair. Still feeling good support from the chair, but we're going to take the right leg out to the right and then see about extending the leg. So you could be on the heel, you could have a flat foot and a slightly bent knee. Toes could be up if that works best for you. And the left leg is going to stay in its position pointed forward. From here we'll get long in the spine again. In fact, let's bring hands to the bottom of the rib cage and just imagine that you're giving yourself a little lift, getting a little taller, and then you can release your hands. And from here, we're going to slide the right arm down the right leg, coming to whatever side bend works best for you. And take a breath here. And then we'll have the option of taking the left arm up and alongside of the ear. It might point straight up. It might lean a little into this side bend with us, but still feeling steadily supported by the chair as you lean a bit to the side. Don't have to go very far to get a stretch. Couple of breaths. We're going to slowly come back up, sliding the hand up the leg. Help the right leg to come back to center. And then slide yourself just a little bit to the left, still feeling fully supported by the chair. We're going to take the left leg out to the left. Keep rocking around on the chair until you find a good spot. See about lengthening left leg out to the side. Again, you might have a bit of bend to the knee and the foot flat on the floor. Toes could point up as well if that works for you. Right leg stays in its position pointed forward, and then we'll slide down the left leg. Sliding to whatever extent feels fine for your body and also allows you to still have a deep breath. Right arm is going to come up and over the ear. We might point it straight up towards the sky first and get a long stretch here. And then let it come into the side bend with us, creating a long line from the right hip up through the torso, up through the arm, and out through the fingertips. A couple of breaths here. And coming back upright, helping left leg back in, moving back to the center of the chair, sliding forward, forearms to the thighs. Pause here a moment. And if you decide to go further, letting the body lean more forward out over the legs, you can release the head and neck. And again, you might make some funny faces and chew an imaginary piece of bubble gum. And chew that bubble gum in both directions. The forearms come back up to the thighs and we pause. Hands come to the thighs, pressing yourself slowly up. Arms go out to the sides and up, reach up, and then back down. Do that a few times, arms lifting to whatever extent they can lift, and then they come back down. Never forcing the body to do something that it can't or won't or doesn't want to do. One more time, arms going out and up. And coming back down, hands rest on the thighs for a moment of observation. And from here, we're going to come up to stand. So take your time to come up to stand. And moving your chair towards the front of the mat or somewhere where it's still going to not slip. This chair seat faces away from you and you stand behind the chair with fingertips on the back of the chair. Finding our mountain pose, feet are comfortable distance apart. You might move the weight around from one foot to the other foot and see about finding some sense of center. Hands could stay on the back of the chair, arms could come to your sides, and let's keep the eyes open for a few breaths and looking slightly up towards the spot where the ceiling and the wall meet. A few slow breaths. Hands coming to the back of the chair. We're going to lift and lower the heels a few times with the breath. And if you want to work one hand on the heart, one hand on the chair, and then switching, you can do that. If you're feeling steady, arms could come a bit out to the sides as we lift and lower. So looking down at your feet, making sure that feet are both pointing forward. And then lifting your gaze and finding something out in front of you that's not going to move, a focal point for us to keep our eyes focused on. We're going to inhale and lift the heels up and exhale and bring them down. And it doesn't matter how high you lift, we'll continue to lift and lower your heels. You could also do this from a seat, sitting in the chair, and same idea, the heels lift on the inhale and lower on the exhale. Feel free to experiment with the hands, whether they're on the back of the chair or not. Taking a few more repetitions of this. Some of them might be a bit wobbly, and that's okay. And then this time we're going to lift the heels and stay for a couple of breaths. The heels don't have to be lifted as high as possible, just finding some place where it feels comfortable to stay. One hand on the chair, one hand on the heart, both hands on the heart, whatever may work well for you. Another couple of breaths. And slowly lowering your heels. Bend your knees a bit. Send the hips back behind you. Forearms could come down to the chair. Hands could come down to the chair seat. We'll call this a half forward bend. Keeping length in the spine. You can bow the head a moment. And take another deep breath. And bring your hands back to the back of the chair so we're more upright. And taking a step back with your right foot and making it a big step if that works. The right heel plants down on the mat and turns slightly in. And then we're going to scoot the left toes a little bit more forward. And bend the left knee so that the left knee is over the heel or the ankle and it's pointed slightly in the direction of the baby toe. From here, lifting the torso, you can come up onto fingertips on the back of the chair, or if you need to stay a little forward, hands feeling totally stable on the back of the chair. A few breaths here. Press down into the back foot, press into the outer edge of the back foot, press down into your front foot. And then we have a choice here. One or both of the arms might come up alongside of the ear. If you're doing one at a time, we'll take a couple of breaths before switching. And then switching arms, if you're doing one at a time, let the other arm come up and come out of any pose at any time when you need. Hands back to the back of the chair. We're going to lift the back heel and then 1, 2, or 10 steps brings the right leg forward to meet the left leg, and we're back to our mountain pose. So hands could rest on the back of the chair or perhaps arms at your sides. A couple of breaths here. Hands return to the back of the chair, and the left leg takes a pretty decent step back. Heel turns in slightly and presses down. Maybe we scoot the right toes a little bit forward. Find what works well for you. And then bending the right knee. You can come over the heel, over the ankle, maybe a little bit behind the heel. Finding a bend in that knee that works for you. Knee slightly out towards the baby toe side of the foot, and then we'll lift the torso, lift the gaze, press strongly into the back leg, and take another breath. And then one or both of the arms can lift up. This is our warrior one pose. A couple of breaths with one arm lifted, and then we'll switch, or both arms are lifted, and we're having a few breaths. And switching the arm that is lifted, if you're working one at a time, another couple of breaths here. And thinking about that lift that we did with the rib cage. Rib cage lifts up a little bit to get us a little more length in the torso. One more breath. Hands both back to the back of the chair. And this time we're going to step the front foot back. So take your time. It might be a couple of steps to get it back there. And eventually the feet line up. We're going to take the hips back, reach the arms forward. This is our downward facing dog. Can hold on to the back of the chair. This could also be something that you do in the kitchen, hands onto the counter, something like that. You could also take your hands to the chair seat and stretch the hips back from there. Hands could come down to the floor if you are accustomed to doing a floor downward facing dog. That's also an option for you. And we'll take a few more breaths here. hands come back up to the back of the chair. If they're not there already, get your length. And then bend your knees, slowly lift your torso, walk toward the chair, and stand in mountain pose. Hands could rest on the back of the chair, arms could be at your sides. We're going to lift the shoulders up towards the ears and then roll them back and down, and do that a couple of times. Shoulders coming up towards the ears, rolling back and down. Another time or two. And then pausing a couple of breaths in mountain pose. I'm going to turn so that you might see me a little bit better, but you don't necessarily have to turn unless it's a better view for you. Working towards a tree pose. We'll start in mountain pose, hands on the back of the chair, fingertips on the back of the chair, feet evenly spaced, feeling solid support from your legs, lengthening up through the spine. I'm taking a breath here. Allow your right heel to lift. So the right heel lifts and that bends the knee. The knee starts to point forward. And then rotating your right leg out to the right and sliding the heel of the right foot to the ankle of the left leg. And having a moment here. Seeing if everything feels balanced. You could move the foot, move the leg, come back into the pose, come in and out of the pose as you see fit. And taking left hand to left hip, right? So notice if the left hip feels like it's a little higher than the right hip. And if so, lifting the right hip slightly, letting the left hip lower a little bit so that they're a little more in line. Find your focal point across the room and take a couple of breaths. And this might be a great place to stay, or you might see about sliding the foot a little further up the left leg. Press the sole of your right foot into the inner left leg and see how that goes. It might be wobbly and you could again come in and out of the pose. Left hand could stay on the left hip, left hand could come to the heart, or left arm could reach alongside of the ear, up overhead, out to the front. There's lots of choices. So making a choice that works well for you for another couple of breaths. No tightness in the jaw, right? You might even open your mouth, let the jaw hang. One more breath. Both hands to the chair back. We're going to rotate the right knee forward and then set the right foot on the mat. And then we're just going to step a couple of times into one leg and into the other leg. You can hold on to the chair. And then we come back to mountain pose. Right? Nice tall spine, deep breath. Imagine a headrest for the back of your head. So lifting the back of your head up and sending it back just slightly. Finding your focal point across the room. And then we're going to lift the left heel so that the left knee bends to point forward. We're going to rotate the left leg out to the left and slide it closer to the right so that the heel can rest on the ankle. Toes are on the floor. From here, right hand to the right hip. Notice if one hip is higher than the other. See if you can get them a little more balanced. Lengthen the spine, deepen the breath. You can stay here or slide the foot a little further up the leg so that the sole of the foot presses to the inner right leg. A few breaths here. Right hand could stay on the right hip. Right arm could go out to a T. Right arm can come up overhead. Maybe it's a goalpost shaped arm. You get a lot of choices here. So finding something that works well for you to feel like you're still really expansive in the pose. You've got an easy breath. If you come in and out of the pose, that's fine too. Another breath. Both hands come back to the back of the chair. We're going to turn the left leg, point it forward, and set it down on the mat. And then again, we're going to step. So pick up your foot, pick up your other foot, step side to side, getting some of the circulation back into your legs. And then pausing in mountain pose. Fingertips on the back of the chair, arms at your sides. A lifted gaze, lifted spine, deep breath. And then we'll sit back down into our chairs again. Perched a little towards the front of the chair, feet flat on the floor. If you had a setup where there was something under your feet or something under your seat, get that back into place, resting the hands on the thighs, and taking a couple of breaths. I'm going to get a little more stretch in the low back and the hips by circling the torso. So we'll lean over to the right, circle forward, lean over to the left, and circle back, and continue to make that motion. I like to do slow circles, but you might want to have a slightly faster or an even slower circle. You could make this kind of exaggerated lean back, lean forward, or it could be a more subtle kind of circle, really staying over the circumference of the hips and the pelvis. And we're going to reverse those circles and go in the other direction. And again, finding a speed, finding a depth that works for your body today. One more time, all the way around the circle, and coming back to center. Slide your forearms down to your thighs, lean forward into our, towards our forward bend, half forward bend we might call this. And if you want to go any further, you can lean the torso forward to the extent that works well for your body, letting go of the head and neck, making your funny faces, and having a couple of deep breaths. Slowly sliding back up, forearms to thighs if you're not there. Lengthen your spine. Hands onto the thighs and slowly press up. One last thing to do here is our seated cat-cow. Hands rest on the thighs. We're going to inhale, roll the pelvis forward, lift the heart, lift the chin slightly. Exhale, roll the pelvis back, round the spine, shoulders come forward, head comes down, and then inhale, rolling the pelvis forward, arching the spine, lifting the chin. Exhale, rolling the pelvis back, rounding the spine, and chin comes down. pelvis moves first, so we roll the pelvis forward to come back up into the arch. And then we start with the pelvis, we roll it back and then round from there. A couple more repetitions of this, and again, if the breath doesn't work, feel free to take 2 breaths or 3 breaths on the way up, and 2 breaths or 3 breaths on the way back. Returning to neutral, and we'll slide back into the chair a little more relaxed. You can lean back onto the to the chair back. Hands can rest. We'll turn the palms up this time. Legs in a comfortable position. Eyes could close for a moment. And before we have Shavasana, we're going to have a little chant. So you're welcome to chant along with me, or you can listen to me chant. And there, the finger movements go along with the syllables that we'll be chanting. So you can just let your hands rest comfortably in your lap, and touching the thumb to the index finger, touching the thumb to the middle finger, touching the thumb to the ring finger, and then touching the thumb to the pinky. And then you go back to touch thumb to index, thumb to middle, thumb to ring, and thumb to pinky. The syllables that we'll do, thumb to index is sa, thumb to middle is ta, thumb to ring is na, and thumb to pinky is ma. So sa, ta, na, ma. And so we coordinate that with the voice, with the movement of the fingers. And we'll do this for about a minute or so. And again, you could listen, you could join in at any time, drop out at any time, however you'd like to do it. So starting with the thumb and the index, moving through each of the fingers on each syllable. Sa, ta, na, ma. 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 Once more. Sa, ta, na, ma. Keep moving your fingers and silently saying sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na, ma. So silently for a few repetitions. Once more through the silent repetition. And then letting your hands rest, fingers rest, eyes could close a moment if they're not already. And I'll provide a link to some additional information on that chant in the comments box. Chanting is a great way to find our voices and to give a little more focus to the practice and just to do something that may be a little different for you. Another breath here. And then finding a comfortable resting place. If you're near a couch or a bed, you might lie down on the couch or the bed. If you are able to get up and down off the floor easily, you might lie down on the floor. Perhaps a folded blanket or a pillow for your head, behind your head, or a rolled blanket behind the backs of the knees. You could cover with a blanket as well. If you're staying in the chair, you could have a pillow underneath the legs. You could move to your reclining chair if you've got one. There's a few ways to prop yourself up. Maybe a pillow behind you. You might be close to a wall and you could lean your head back into a pillow on the wall, something like that. But finding a comfortable place for a little bit of Shavasana. It's a little bit of rest and relaxation. So whatever position you choose, moving to that, taking your time, propping yourself up in any way that feels comfortable. And then when you arrive there, take a big breath in through your nose. Hold that breath for a moment, and then open your mouth. Let the breath out. And do that again, a long, slow breath in through your nose. Holding that breath a moment. Opening your mouth and letting it out. And then one more time, breathing in through your nose. Holding the breath. Letting it out of your mouth. And from there, settling in. I can wiggle anytime you need to wiggle. I'm going to guide you a little bit through relaxation. And you're welcome to tune me out. You're welcome to do your own meditative practice. Or if you need to take a nap, it might be a great time to take a nap. And if you need to set an alarm, you could set an alarm. But I'll give you some choices at the end for staying where you are. So we'll just have a few moments together. Letting your whole body relax as much as possible. Take notice of your fingers and toes. Letting fingers and toes relax. Maybe you get a wiggle. Letting your feet relax, and if that means that the legs kind of flop out or the legs flop in, letting them do their natural way of resting. So relax the muscles of your legs. They might turn out, they might turn in, they might just stay right where they are. Notice the muscles of your thighs, your hips. Notice the breath moving in your rib cage. And just let it be. Don't try to force it. Don't try to make any effort. Breath will just rise and fall without any help. Relax your neck and throat. You might swallow and swish your tongue around just to get a little bit more softness there. Noticing the position of your shoulders and your shoulder blades. Noticing the position of your arms. And making sure that those are comfortable as well. Hands can rest alongside of you. Hands could rest on your belly. Hands could rest on your legs. Notice the muscles of your face and jaw, inviting them to relax as well. Whole body from head to toe is soft. Whole body from head to toe is letting go. And as we relax, we can be aware of our surroundings. You might even open your eyes and take a quick, slow look around the room. Or maybe you keep your eyes closed But imagine looking around the room. You know what this room looks like, so you could recreate that in your mind's eye. Be aware of the sounds that are around you, the sounds coming from your body, the sounds coming from inside of your home, the sounds coming from outside of your home. We'll stay a few more moments, during which time you might notice sensations. So could be a temperature, could be a tightness or a looseness, could be a texture, could be a softness or a firmness depending on where you're sitting or lying. Or just taking notice of a couple of different sensations that you can name. We'll take another moment here. You may decide to stay in your Shavasana, in your relaxation place. Highly recommend doing that if you've got the time. If you're moving on, a big breath, deep breath in, long breath out, maybe a sigh. Give a wiggle to your fingers and your toes. Give a stretch to your arms and your legs. And then if you're moving on, coming back up to a comfortable seat, whether that's in the chair or not. Hands resting on the legs will lengthen the spine, deepen the breath. And let the eyes be open and looking slightly upward. Give a moment or two of settling into your seat, aware of your surroundings, aware of the time we spent practicing. And hands could stay in your lap, hands could come to heart center, and taking the gaze down, down slightly towards the fingers or towards the legs. Pausing a moment here, gratitude for yourself, gratitude for the practice, gratitude for moving and breathing. And I offer my gratitude to you. Thank you for joining me today. If you're able to donate for this class, I really appreciate it. And if that's not possible, no problem. Have a lovely day. Namaste.